Howdy guys. This is a long overdue update. My apologies, time has flown by so fast and it's been just a crazy sprint. In this episode is going to be one, just settling and realizing that GameTree is actually growing quite a bit and a lot bigger than I realized now, and it's been growing, just a little bit into that. And also a new look that we've come out with, cleaning up the UI, a focus on GameTree as the kind of tools that we've figured out are going to create the retention and actually make the more improved efficiency in people's lives outside of just player matching. That we did a Kickstarter that actually funded, and a little bit about the learning experiences from that and our thought going into it, and the kinds of rewards that we have, and also how we added dating to GameTree because 30% of the users have been wanting that. And then we have a big business deal in the works, like really big, called a company called Enthusiast Gaming essentially wanted to acquire us, and now we're working on a partnership. And I'm going to be so happy if this thing works out because it's kind of like a match made in heaven. And they're the biggest gaming news network in the world. So if this deal goes through, it gives GameTree a very high probability of becoming kind of the Facebook for gamers that it's sort of evolving into. And lastly is a little bit about LARPing, live action role playing. That's where you dress up as characters and you have all these rules and you're immersed in a role play. And so GameTree is going to be pivoting a little into that and about plans for tabletop and getting people more meaning in real life. So I'll be sharing this sort of information and updates on GameTree, and also just some sort of whatever I think can be useful as learning experiences that have come up along the way. So one, starting off, is that the GameTree, more and more I'm realizing as a community, it's only sunk in since the last video, like how many people are using it. We've had probably about 145,000 signups at this point. And it's really kind of taking on a lot of life on its own. There's a lot of community moderators. In the last 4 months, we've had a 60% increase in daily active users without any major changes to the amount of marketing that we're doing. And there's a lot of really cool stories happening all the time. One that comes to mind is someone who said that they were kicked out of their house and she and her boyfriend didn't have somewhere to stay, and they ended up meeting up with people that they were friends with from GameTree, and now they all live together as like 4 people in an apartment, and they're super happy. And she said that they might be homeless if it weren't for GameTree. And that story just makes it feel more real that sort of stuff is happening. And I've heard a lot of other stories, and it's like it's a really good to see that it's starting to kind of like bear fruit, not financially yet, but that I'll get to. We just released our biggest update in a long time, maybe the second biggest one ever after the gamification, and that includes a new look. So GameTree has, it's kind of funny actually, Jorge, the new junior marketer, and I were sitting down together just trying to figure out like how can we redesign the app, because a lot of people, get lost, don't know where certain functionalities are. It's a really big app at this point. And so I was like, I know how to do this. So I went and I just smoked weed, came back, it was like, and then just like furiously like figured it all out. And I think it's like literally a perfect UI now. Every page is consistent, easy to navigate. The themes are all separated. There's like past, present, future, or logical groupings of stuff. It's just like works like really well, and it's just really funny how weed can be such a good brainstorming tool for that kind of a thing. Nowadays, I'm not smoking too much, maybe a couple times a week, almost always just at night. But a couple times it's been really useful for brainstorming. So that's a helpful tool if you're ever stuck on something or want some like creative outlet. So far as the roadmap goes, I've kind of identified that GameTree needs to improve its session scheduling, because right now we're by far number one at helping people find friends. We added a personal values test, which is the most important thing for relationships in addition to common interests. If you accept somebody or not, that's a really big thing. And now we are adding more work into the sessions. So we want to make it as easy as possible, now that you find these people, to actually spend time with them, to make it worthwhile, to make it easy, and to coordinate those things. So I have some ideas for those kinds of tools, and a lot of it is talking about the Discord integrations from last time, of getting people pinging back and forth, where it's not just people meeting on GameTree and then going to Discord to hang out, but adding the GameTree value more accessibly into Discord, so it's more of a two-way flow. Because GameTree is better when it's a healthy ecosystem, when there's more people to match with, when there's more stuff going on in the feed and active discussions and such. So very excited to implement those things. We did do a Kickstarter, and the reason for this was, one, a little bit of research learning, knowing like what do the people care about who are willing to pay for stuff. Also a little bit of marketing, and also as a way of market validation before starting an investment round that would be starting right about now. And the reason for that is because most investors in general, especially outside of California, really want to see monetization revenue. It's like one of their first questions every time, which are MRR, monthly recurring revenue. And for us, we've had like a few $1,000s in donations. Now we've had over $20,000 in pre-orders. So that helps a lot with the MRR side of things. The Kickstarter, we learned that people really do want to double down on the matchmaking. Like the number one thing was improved matchmaking, adding skill levels, even non-gaming interests, things like that. So it's good to know that we're really hammering that niche and doing a really good job. And in a way, we don't even have to have their attention in the long term because it's about the data and being able to build tools and build strong AI to recommend stuff. And so the more data we have, even if people don't stick around, that's still helpful. So it's nice to know that we've gone to that vertical where the nowadays best strategy is to specialize and be the best at one thing and then expand from there rather than going straight for platforms. So it seems like we've almost got player matching, if not already, pretty much on lockdown. A fuck up around the Kickstarter is again a failed press. This has been a pain in the ass over and over again, is putting a lot of time into press. We did huge amounts of studies into our data, discovering all sorts of cool things, made like 50 or 60 infographics, just cross-tabulating where people live and what genres they play and ages and genders and platforms that like consoles that they play on, just have all this cool information, and like nothing in the press picked it up. And I even brought on a family friend who's one of the top press people, and also somebody who I met in Ukraine who's more in tech press. And the lesson is that from now on, if I'm going to do press, it's going to be because it's through somebody who actually focuses specifically on just gaming press, somebody who specifically has the relationships already. Otherwise, I feel like it's not even worth trying anymore. Alongside the Kickstarter is we're also funding dating now. About 30% of the users are there for dating, and it actually makes that better because then you can match the people who are looking for the same thing, so you don't get people messaging you for the wrong reason. So it actually makes a stronger community, and like 95% of the functionality is already there. So this is a really cool thing to do where I think we can dominate that niche. Next up, Enthusiast Gaming. I love their CEO a lot. He's also really into personality psychology, so we can just vibe on that really well. He and his wife are fluent in it and talk back and forth, and I'm glad to share the objective personality system that you could learn a little bit more about in an upcoming interview with Dave Powers, who's the main researcher behind that, where it's a more objective, complex personality system. Enthusiast Gaming is such a good partner because they're a news network. They're not necessarily a single platform or game, so they're able to collaborate across the industry like we are. They originally wanted to acquire us, and for not that good of a deal, and they almost never ever invest or partner. They always almost just want to acquire companies. They're the biggest gaming company in Canada, a publicly listed company. But by doing a partnership, we can maintain our public benefit corporation status. We can still expand into WeTree later without dilution, but we also have bankrolling, massive distribution. All of our press and data can be picked up and be exclusives for them. We have somebody to pilot our data to increase the ROI on their ads and to build these tools, and we can take information from their network where they serve 12 billion ads per month and serve that on GameTree. So it just solves like so many of each other's problems. They have like 100 websites or something that they're going to use a universal GameTree login for, which has been part of our roadmap. So that's just like super awesome. We're going back and forth, but very excited about the deal. And this means I'm probably going to be moving back to Ukraine, because originally I came to California because I was like, I need to build relationships to be able to have meetings with people in the gaming industry. I need to be able to do business development. I need to be able to raise investment. But if these guys are going to bankroll us forever now, and if they already have all their own connections and they're already pre-ordering all of our stuff and like building the tools with us, then the best place for me to be is with the team developing product back in Ukraine. So that's really cool because I have a lot of friends there. I really enjoy working on product as well. So very excited for this to go through. I'm thinking it's probably an 85% chance this is going to happen. And it's just really big news for GameTree to be able to start fulfilling its mission this much faster and more surely. Lastly is a bit of GameTree, like a teaser, foreshadowing. We're going more and more into tabletop in the future. Electronic gaming is easier to scale, and we'll be focusing that for a bit, but the hope is to get more people together in real life, real friendships, real relationships, get developing social skills, making everything about gaming more productive rather than just having fun, but, tapping as many benefits, as many birds with one stone as we can get. So one aspect of that is LARPing, live action role playing. And I actually spontaneously, with just a couple days notice, went from Ukraine to Germany to attend the biggest LARP in the world. And I was inspired by a video that someone showed me of this girl, Sonia, who essentially is a big influencer in this space, and the video just looked so cool. I had to go, and I actually bumped into her there because we were both part of like kind of the tribal barbarian people, and reached out to her recently, and now she's on board with GameTree, trying to get more of the LARP community to group around it because it's such a cool activity, hyper social, and the hardest parts are just knowing how to get involved, knowing who to be friends with, where things are going on, asking questions. So GameTree is a really good use case for this. So in addition to tabletop games and such, I'm hoping that as time goes on as well, we become kind of a LARP community to be able to get these sort of funky, weird communities into the real world that are almost otherwise what you'd be doing in like World of Warcraft or video games. So that's it for this time. Very optimistic about GameTree. I've been to a couple pitches here and with really good feedback where some of the investors said that we had the strongest pitch out of many or that we were one of the most interesting companies. But ultimately, I just care about getting stuff done in the world. And if this enthusiast partnership is going to work out, then that makes everything in life a lot easier. So we're really looking forward to that and happy about GameTree's continued growth. Really happy with the team. We've brought on some new developers in Ukraine who I'm happy to meet. So overall, things are going pretty well. And until next time, hopefully, I mean, it's been a roller coaster in between every other day, just about, but things are looking good right now. See you next time.